I am the senior brother of the #1 immortal sect on the Kanglan continent. I was also the husband of the beautiful sect master for 100 years, but when I was gravely injured in the war with the demon race, she took my spirit root, dug out my immortal bone, and gave them to my junior brother. In one night, I went from peerless genius to useless trash, mocked and humiliated in the sect. After my junior brother framed me once again, my dear wife personally threw me into the 10,000 souls abyss, making me endure the agony of 10,000 souls gnawing at my heart. At that moment, my supreme forgetfulness finally reached perfection, and I proved the Tao and became an immortal. Later, the entire sect trembled beneath my feet, crying and begging me for forgiveness, holding the ancient 10,000 souls banner. I burst out laughing. If apologizing actually worked, why would we need the police? No, why would this immortal need to exist? More than 100 years ago, I transmigrated into this world and became a member of the Qinglan immortal sect. I was discovered to possess a top-grade spirit root and a supreme immortal bone, becoming a peerless prodigy rarely seen on the continent in centuries. The old sect master died in battle against the demon race, and Su Qingli was pushed into the sect master's seat at a young age. She placed great hopes on me and personally guided my cultivation. Of course, I was delighted beyond words. Su Qingli was not only the sect master, she was also the #1 beauty in the sect, prettier by 10 or 100 times than those top female celebrities from my previous life. I was struck dumb at first sight with such a close position. I naturally got the moon before anyone else, using the cheesy pickup lines and timeless love poems I learned in my previous life. I stirred the beautiful sect master's heart into chaos until she could not let go. In just a few years, she ignored the objections of all the elders and resolutely became my Tao companion. Of course, I didn't disappoint her either. In only 20 years, my cultivation reached the same level as hers. Over these 100 years, I went countless times into secret realms, bringing back massive amounts of cultivation resources for the sect. Because of my efforts, the whole sect could cultivate without distractions. I even went alone into a death zone, and after narrowly surviving, found the immortal herb needed for tribulation. Only then did I help the sect master and the 3 great supreme elders break through to the tribulation realm in one fell swoop. The sect's strength soared, and it became the #1 sect on the continent. These 100 years, Su Qingli and I had been deeply in love, inseparable. I thought we would always stay this sweet. Unexpectedly, 3 years ago, the demon race invaded. I took the initiative to fight on behalf of the sect and guard the human frontier. For 3 whole years, I fought at all times, struggling on the edge of life and death countless times. Top experts of the human race and demon race died in droves, and we finally drove back the demon army. I was also gravely injured, and my Tao foundation was damaged. When I rushed back to the sect night and day, I was already exhausted and unconscious. In my dazed state, I heard the conversation between the Supreme Elder and my wife, Qingli. Although Xiao Chen is badly injured and his Tao foundation is damaged, he is still your husband. If you treat him like this, aren't you afraid of breaking his heart? Su Qingli said indifferently, Xiao Chen's Tao foundation is damaged. It'll be harder than ascending to heaven for him to return to the peak. It would be better to give his spirit root and supreme immortal bone to Yi. That would count as a contribution to the sect, too. And I believe he can understand. Yay. And has suffered too much. And has also so kind. This is the only way to let him undergo a complete transformation. As for Xiao Chen, his wife, I'll spend the rest of my life with him and make it up to him properly. What does he have to be upset about? I could hardly believe my ears. It felt like I'd fallen into an ice cave. I coughed up a huge mouthful of blood and fell unconscious again. At that moment, inside my inner world, a miniature version of me holding the human emperor banner suddenly opened its eyes. There was endless coldness in those eyes. Back when I found the immortal herb in the death zone, I had also found 2 ancient treasures, Supreme Forgetfulness record and the ancient 10,000 souls banner. The ancient 10,000 souls banner had always been inside me, but I had never been able to activate it. And although I cultivated Supreme Forgetfulness for decades, I only cultivated a miniature version of myself, which was completely useless. Unexpectedly, it reacted. At this very moment, when Su Qingli saw me coughing blood, her eyes were full of anxiety as she tightly held me in her arms. The next second, a flash of malice crossed her eyes. Violent spiritual power surged madly into my body. She wasn't healing me at all. She was forcibly stripping my top-grade spirit root and supreme immortal bone. I woke from unconsciousness again, this time roused by excruciating pain. The intense pain made my whole body tremble uncontrollably. My junior sister, whom I had raised with my own hands, knelt on the ground, crying out, "Sect Master, please spare Senior Brother. Senior Brother's Tao Foundation is already damaged. If he loses his spirit root and immortal bone too, he'll really become a useless cripple." Su Qingli flew into a rage and slapped the junior sister, flying. "You wicked disciple!" Doing this for the whole sect. "Do you think you're qualified to question my decision? Yi Yan's temperament and character make him the best candidate. He can perfectly inherit your senior brother's talent." Her hands never stopped moving as she tore the spirit root and immortal bone out of my body inch by inch. Pain made blood seep through my skin, all over my body, and I trembled non-stop. A moment later, I became a blood-soaked man and could no longer put up even the slightest resistance. The Supreme Elder sighed. "Enough. It'll help you. If you keep stripping him away like this, his body is going to collapse. If he dies, the quality of the spirit root and immortal bone will be greatly reduced." At those words, Su Qingli immediately sped up before my consciousness sank into darkness. I looked at her deeply. "When we married," she said, "meeting me was the luckiest thing that had ever happened in her life." She said she was willing to stay with me through every life, through life and death, never to part. And now, at my weakest, she was doing the cruelest thing to me. I had seen that junior brother once 3 years ago, when my wife brought him back to the sect. He was fair and delicate, with smooth skin and soft features, comparable to the pretty boys from the entertainment industry in my previous life. His eyes darted around, carrying a trace of slyness. At a glance, he was not the type who could endure hardship and quietly focus on cultivation. I had never taken someone like that seriously before. I never expected that in just 3 years. My wife, who had sworn to live and die with me, would disregard my life for him, stripping my spirit root and digging out my immortal bone. I don't know how long passed before I slowly woke up, only to see my wife of 100 years half reclining in junior brother Yi Yan's arms. Ye, and was the first to notice that I had opened my eyes. He held Su Qingli tightly and looked at me provocatively. "Qingli, you're so good to me. You even personally dug out senior brother's spirit root and immortal bone to give them to me." He lowered his head and kissed Su Qingli's smooth forehead, but his eyes stayed on me. "Thank you, Qingli. You're the best person in the world to Yi." And Su Qingli showed a shy, little girl expression. "You're so sweet. Didn't you thank me all night last night? Why are you being so formal again? As long as it's something you want." Yi and ID even plucked the stars from the sky for you. Yi Yan's smugness grew stronger and stronger as he continued. "Then, in Qingli's heart, who's more important, me or senior brother?" Su Qingli curled her lips dismissively. "Xiao Chen is already a cripple. How can he compare to you?" Truthfully, from the moment I saw my beloved wife strip my spirit root and dig out my immortal bone with my own eyes, my heart had already died. Right now, hearing this dog, man and woman talk, I didn't feel heartache. I only felt numbness and endless killing intent. I checked my condition and found that my cultivation was completely gone. I had become a total waste. What surprised me was that the miniature me inside my body had already reached the tribulation realm. The supreme forgetfulness technique was running madly, and that cultivation was still rising non-stop. But when I tried to control that power, there was no response at all. Su Qingli finally noticed I had woken up. Her face changed abruptly, and she hurriedly pushed Yi and away. "Xiao Chen, you're finally awake. I've been very worried about you and have guarded you for 2 days and 2 nights." Seeing that I didn't speak, she frowned. "Xiao Chen, your Tao Foundation is damaged, and it's very hard to recover. For the sake of the sect, I had no choice but to give your spirit root and immortal bone to Yi and the sect Master. So of course, I have to think of the bigger picture. I believe you'll understand me. Right. I stared at her closely. How could she say such shameless words without even changing her expression? But under someone else's roof, I had to bow my head. After spending 100 years in this transmigrated world, I deeply knew how cruel the cultivation world was. If I showed even a trace of killing intent, now I could very likely invite disaster. I had to plan carefully and escape the sect before I had any chance of making a comeback. Thinking of that, I forced out a smile and said, I understand. You're my wife. I'll naturally support your decision unconditionally. Only then did Su Qingli relax, seemingly satisfied with my answer. During the following period, Su Qingli treated me very well. She came every day to care for me and personally fed me medicine. It was as if we had returned to those extremely loving days. But once I could get up and walk, I discovered I was under soft confinement. As long as I approached the sect entrance, disciples would immediately come out to block me. The looks of respect and admiration those disciples once had for me gradually turned into disdain and mockery. After wandering around for a while, I discovered that whenever I approached the back mountain, forbidden ground, the 10,000 souls abyss, the ancient 10,000 souls banner actually gave off a reaction, seeming to become especially excited. I hadn't noticed this before, but after the miniature me in my inner world opened his eyes, my divine sense became much sharper than at my peak. That day, when I once again came near the 10,000 souls abyss, I ran into junior brother Yi An. A large group of lackeys followed behind him. His gaze had been fixed on the Chixiao sword in my hand. This sword was paired with the Tingxi sword in Su Qingli's hand. One was extreme yang, the other extreme yin. It was hard to imagine they were forged from the same piece of meteoric iron from beyond the heavens. I could no longer unleash the Chixiao sword's true power. Right now, I was only using it as a walking stick. Yi An said teasingly, isn't this our dear senior brother? You're already a cripple now. The Chixiao sword in your hands is just a waste. Why not be generous and give it to junior brother? The other junior brothers and junior sisters also stood up one after another. Yeah, senior brother, you're already a useless cripple. You're not worthy of the Chixiao sword at all. Exactly. The sect master already gave your spirit root and supreme immortal bone to junior brother. It's just a sword. You can't possibly be reluctant. Right. Their faces were full of disdain and mockery. Senior brother, if you hand it over yourself, now you can still save some dignity. Otherwise, when the sect master comes, she'll definitely say, you don't know what's good for you. That's right. You're so petty. You don't look like a senior brother at all. How embarrassing. Junior brother is different, has extraordinary bearing and outstanding grace. No wonder the sect master favors him so much. Hess. Just a waste. Now, Hez not even fit to carry junior brother's shoes. I heard senior brother held the human frontier for 3 years and killed off countless demon race experts. Was that all just him bragging? In the cultivation world, the strong are revered, but hearing the junior brothers and junior sisters who once revolved around me mock me like that felt like poisonous bee stings, piercing deeply into my already riddled heart. The killing intent in my heart grew denser and denser. At this moment, the ancient 10,000 souls banner rustled fiercely in my inner world. What everyone didn't know was that the black fog inside the 10,000 souls abyss was already churning violently. Hand over the sword. Yay! And impatiently raised a hand, clearly having lost all patience. My junior sister, whom I had raised, suddenly appeared and stood in front of me. She pointed at the crowd across from us. Eyes red. Have all of you lost your consciences? Most of us here were guided in cultivation by senior brother. For all these years, he repeatedly risked his life to enter secret realms and bring back massive amounts of cultivation resources. Which one of you has not benefited from senior brother's kindness for these past 3 years? If not, for senior brother and the human race's experts holding the frontier, the human race would have already been plunged into misery. Now, senior brother is seriously injured and hasn't recovered. His cultivation is gone. And yet, all of you are jointly forcing and humiliating him. Are you still human? By the time she said this, tears were streaming down her face, and she was crying so hard She could hardly speak. Many people in the crowd shamefully lowered their heads. Yi! And sneered, and a powerful aura pressed down on my junior sister. Kindness. If he were still the old senior brother, I'd naturally respect him. But now, has nothing more than a cripple without cultivation. What? You think a few empty words can protect him? The other lackeys burst into laughter. Exactly. The reason he was good to us before was because he chose to be. Did we force him? The Chixiao sword is only worthy of a dragon among men like junior brother. Senior brother is just a cripple now. The Chixiao sword in his hands can only gather dust. Senior brother, you're really too selfish. My junior sister drew her sword and shouted angrily, if any of you want senior brother's Chixiao sword, you'll have to step over my corpse. I frowned slightly and said in a voice not loud, but utterly unquestionable, junior sister, step back. Her small body trembled, but stubbornly, she didn't move and still stood in front of me. I sighed. Now even you won't listen to senior brother anymore. Only then did my junior sister reluctantly sheath her sword and step back behind me. Yean's smugness grew even more intense. So, senior brother has thought it through. I stepped forward, and killing intent erupted from my whole body. At this moment, my aura changed, like a giant looking down on the mortal world. That overwhelming pressure made everyone present feel breathless. They stared blankly at me, all eyes flashing with fear. I stared coldly at Yan. If you want the Chixiao sword, come, get it yourself. Although I no longer had any cultivation. My peak cultivation had once reached the tribulation realm. I had roamed the cultivation world for 100 years and killed countless enemies. With terrifying killing intent and monstrous physical strength, dealing with these little cultivators who hadn't even reached the golden core realm was still within my abilities. Yea, Anne's pupils shrank. That killing intent, almost tangible, made his soul tremble. He staggered back half a step, but still forced himself to laugh. A cripple without cultivation. And you think aura alone can scare people? Before he even finished speaking, he drew his sword and charged at me. I didn't retreat. Instead, I rushed forward, my right fist wrapped in a whooshing gale, aiming straight for his face. Ian hurriedly withdrew his sword and hastily summoned a defensive magic treasure. The pale green shield burst apart instantly. He spewed blood from his mouth and nose and was sent flying backward, smashing several thick old trees before stopping. But the next second, I was flung away by a huge force. With a heavy bang, I smashed hard into the ground. I lay there, coughing up blood. My chest caved in, at least 6 ribs broken. It was my wife, Su Qingli. At this moment, her gaze toward me was full of killing intent. Xiao Chen, you're becoming more and more arrogant. Yi, and is so pure and kind. Why did you attack him like that? We've been together for 100 years, and only now have I truly seen you clearly. I never thought you were so vicious. If you target Yi, and again, next time, I will kill you. I had long since given up on Su Qingli, but hearing these words still made my heart ache violently. I struggled to my feet and threw the Chixiao sword at Su Qingli's feet. This sword was the one you gave me when we got married. Returning it to you. Now, I didn't look at her again and staggered away. My junior sister's tears fell like rain as she hurried to support me. Su Qingli suddenly felt as if something very important had disappeared, leaving her heart hollow. She wanted to come over and pull me back, but Yi An's suddenly intensified screams drew her attention away. After I left, the violently churning demonic chi inside the 10,000 souls abyss gradually returned to calm. The ancient 10,000 souls banner in my body also quieted down. The miniature me, seated cross-legged, saw his cultivation skyrocket to the mid-stage tribulation realm. For the next month, I never left my room. Su Qingli's palm strike had left me badly injured internally. Inside my body, there was a burst of spiritual power, madly destroying my vitality. After a month of recuperation, my injuries had not improved at all. In fact, they had only gotten worse. At this rate, I probably wouldn't live much longer. Su Qingli rarely came over during that month. Most of the time, my junior sister Qin Luoyao was the one running around taking care of me. Today, my junior sister didn't come, and I felt a faint sense of unease. Soon after, I vaguely heard my junior sister's cries for help, and my expression changed dramatically. Our residences were close. By the time I arrived, I witnessed a scene that made my eyes crack with rage. Yi and was trying to violate my junior sister, unable to endure the humiliation. My junior sister chose self-detonation without hesitation. Boom! By the time I wanted to save her, it was already too late. Yi and was gravely injured and coughed up blood, and I was also thrown far away by the violent shockwave. My junior sister's residence instantly turned into ruins. She was someone I had brought back while traveling and watched grow up. A sweet metallic taste surged up in my throat. I struggled up from the rubble. Scattered among the ruins was the sandalwood hairpin my junior sister always wore, and a bloodied shard of wood stabbed deep into my palm. Yi! And I stared at him with murderous rage, out of control, because I was still badly injured. I coughed up a huge mouthful of blood. Again, that figure fled in panic toward the distance. The others also rushed over after hearing the commotion. Yi and hurriedly hid behind the sect master and cried out, "Sect Master Ching Li, I personally saw senior brother trying to violate junior sister." Junior sister couldn't bear the humiliation and chose self-detonation. "Sect Master, you must avenge junior sister." Yi and was now the darling of the sect master, and these junior brothers and junior sisters had long since taken sides. His influence in the sect was even higher than that of ordinary elders. Everyone, without distinguishing right from wrong, shouted at me angrily, "Senior brother, you're truly a beast. Junior sister is so pure. How could you do something like that?" "Exactly. Junior sister has always treated you best. How could you do something so despicable?" "Before, I thought senior brother was so righteous and proper. I never expected his bones to be this filthy." The enforcement elder flew into a towering rage. Our Qinglan immortal sect actually raised such a disgraceful scum. He should be thrown into the 10,000 souls abyss and suppressed for eternity. Everyone was shocked. Being thrown into the 10,000 souls abyss was, one could say, the most vicious punishment in Qinglan immortal sect. Not only would one suffer the pain of 10,000 souls gnawing at the heart, but the soul itself would be trapped in the abyss for eternity, never to be reincarnated. My wife of 100 years, Su Qingli, looked at me disappointedly, her tone cold. "Xiao Chen, what else do you have to say now?" I swept my gaze over the crowd and laughed wildly, finally letting my eyes settle on Su Qingli. "Su Qingli, you and I have been husband and wife for 100 years. I've entered secret realms countless times for the sect and brought back endless resources. The immortal herb that allowed you and the 3 supreme elders to break through to the tribulation realm was something I brought back from a death zone after narrowly surviving. 3 years ago, when the demon race invaded, in order to preserve the sect's strength, I volunteered to fight on behalf of the sect. For 3 full years, I never once left the edge of death, and I was gravely injured and on the verge of dying. But you, when I was at my weakest and needed you most, as my wife of 100 years, you ignored whether I lived or died and brutally stripped my spirit root, dug out my immortal bone, and gave them to Yi, and we spent 100 years together, day and night. Yet, it couldn't compare to the 3 years since Yian appeared. For 100 years, I gave everything for the sect. I, Xiao Chen, have no shame before the sect, no shame before heaven and earth, and no shame before you. As for forcing junior sister to self-detonate, Xiao Chen, stand tall and upright. I would never do such a thing." This speech was passionate and righteous, brimming with integrity. Everyone in the hall was moved and lowered their heads. Su Qingli felt guilty and didn't dare look at me. Yea, and panicked, he raised his sword to his own neck, tears falling drop by drop. "Senior brother, I know you hate me because I used your spirit root and immortal bone. But why are you doing this? Junior sister trusted you so much. You're framing me now just because the sect master cared a little more about me. If that won't satisfy you, then I'll just pay you back with my life." Yi and looked as if he had suffered a world of grievance, his expression resolute as he was about to slit his own throat. Su Qingli was heartbroken. She quickly snatched the sword from Ye An's hand and pulled him into her arms. Ye An is pure by nature. He would never do such a thing. She suddenly looked at me, killing intent in her eyes. Xiao Chen. First, you forced Qin Lo Yao to her death, and now you want to force Yi and to death too. How vicious can your heart be, since you're obstinate and refuse to confess? Then, go to the 10,000 souls abyss and repent. With a flash of cold light from her sleeve, 9 soul locking nails shot toward me at lightning speed and precisely nailed into my spirit platform. She brought me to the edge of the abyss and personally pushed me down. The moment I fell into the 10,000 souls abyss, Su Qingli felt a moment of panic. It was as if something very important had vanished, and her connection to me was completely severed. She stared blankly into the abyss for a long time, then forcefully suppressed that panic. Inside the 10,000 souls abyss, everything was black as ink and bone-chillingly cold. Tens of thousands of soul bodies crazily surged toward me, gnawing at my flesh. My soul was locked down and couldn't escape at all. The agony of 10,000 souls devouring my heart made my very soul howl. Deeper in the abyss, more and more soul bodies surged toward me, numbering in the billions. At the very moment my body shattered, my soul instantly rushed into the miniature little man's body, and the miniature little man gradually grew back to my original size. I suddenly opened my eyes. In my eyes was endless coldness, like a demon abyss staring back. Just looking at me gave others the urge to sink, to be destroyed, to have their souls shattered. The ancient 10,000 souls banner moved without wind, and the banner cloth snapped violently. The black fog formed by countless soul bodies was frantically absorbed by the banner. Billions of soul bodies let out sharp, unwilling roars. That day, the entire Qinglan immortal sect trembled. Everyone could hear the deafening roars coming from the 10,000 souls abyss. Thick demonic chi shot up into the sky and covered the heavens. All the cultivators in the sect were terrified, as if the end of the world had arrived. Some timid female disciples were scared into tears. Only Yi and looked toward the 10,000 souls abyss with smug eyes. I didn't expect such a huge reaction. Looks like this Xiao Chen is definitely dead. The 3 supreme elders and Su Qingli rushed to the edge of the abyss first and hurriedly reinforced the seal. The disturbance in the abyss lasted for 3 whole days and nights before gradually calming down and falling silent. 3 months later, a female disciple came crying to Su Qingli. Sect, Master, I don't want to live anymore. Junior brother knocked on my door last night and said he wanted to discuss cultivation techniques with me. In the end, he forcibly took my purity. Woo. Su Qingli's face was frosty as she smashed the table beside her with one palm. Nonsense. Yi An is pure by nature. How could he do such a disgraceful thing? I never thought you'd be this vicious. Framing Yi An's innocence, the female disciple suddenly lifted her head. Tear tracks crossed her face, and the purple finger marks around her neck were shocking to behold. You don't believe me. Sect, Master, last night, Senior Sister Li was also in my room, but Junior Brother sent her away. Senior Sister Lai can testify. And this, with trembling hands, she pulled open her collar, revealing dark red bite marks below her collarbone. Yi An said that, with the Sect Master protecting him, even if I told anyone, no one would believe me. The Tingshi sword at Su Qingli's waist let out a clear hum. Before this female disciple, there had already been another disciple who had come before her to accuse Yi An. Without another word, Su Qingli had driven that disciple out of the sect for slandering a fellow disciple. At this moment, thinking of Qin Lo Yao being forced to self-detonate 3 months ago, Su Qingli only felt a chill run through her entire body, and she nearly staggered. Qin Lo Yao. She murmured the name, and suddenly, a blood-stained sandalwood hairpin in the ruins from 3 months ago flashed through her mind. She had once thought Xiao Chen's roar was madness, but now it exploded in her mind like thunder. She staggered toward Yi An's residence, but at the last moment, she changed her mind. She had to see Yi An's true face with her own eyes. When Yi An wasn't paying attention, she left behind an immortal shadow jade and hurried away. Sure enough, the image came the next day. A female disciple entered Yi An's room, and demonic patterns appeared on her body. Yi and also revealed his true form. And Su Qingli nearly ground her silver teeth to pieces. It turned out he was actually one of the most despicable members of the demon race, a lust demon. Lust demons possessed the top dual cultivation techniques. They could ignore racial boundaries in dual cultivation and use their partners as furnaces to increase their own cultivation. The human Heihuan sect's dual cultivation techniques originated from lust demons. Ah, damn it! Su Qingli cried out in shame and fury and spat out a huge mouthful of blood. What she didn't know was that there was another immortal shadow jade in Yian's room, left behind by the female disciple who had reported him to her yesterday. That jade was connected to the giant jade screen in the martial arena. Now, every disciple in the martial arena could see the scene of the two demons dual cultivating. The female demon's voice was especially seductive. Young lord, you're always with that old woman Su Qingli every day. You wouldn't really have fallen for her, would you? Yi and panted heavily. Su Qingli is just an idiot. I only say a few nice things to coax her, and shall ignore the life or death of her husband of 100 years. Strip his spirit root and dig out his immortal bone just to please me. How could I possibly fall for someone like that? Only junior sister is truly beautiful. Shez, the only woman I've ever failed to win over. It's just a pity Shez too fierce. Shed rather die than yield to me. What a shame. Everyone in the martial arena was dumbstruck and speechless. Su Qingli's eyes widened, her mind going blank. Her fingernails dug deeply into the flesh of her palm, and blood dripped down one drop at a time. The Tingshi sword at her waist trembled violently, issuing wave after wave of sword hums. Then, the Tingshui sword turned into a streak of light and shot away. Su Qingli's figure followed like a shadow. The void was sliced apart by fierce sword, she emitting shrill screams. At Yian's residence, the female demon lay naked in his arms, her face filled with satisfaction. Suddenly, her expression changed drastically, and she cried out, "Bad news! Killing intent!" Before she could finish, the Tingshi sword pierced through the window lattice and went straight for Yi An's throat. Yi An's pupils shrank sharply. He hurriedly summoned a demon shield, but Su Qingli's sword smashed it to pieces. Damn lust demon, die! Su Qingli slashed out with her sword. The sword light was brilliant, like divine punishment, and a frost dragon dozens of jang long shot toward Yian. A black demon saber suddenly appeared in Yian's hand, and he slashed out a 5 jang blade beam. Boom! With a heaven-shaking explosion, Yian's residence was swept away by the shockwave and collapsed with a crash. The female demon was shredded into a cloud of blood mist by the raging sword and blade chi. Ye An stood motionless in the center, while Su Qingli was knocked back 7 or 8 jang, kicking up a cloud of dust. Sect Master, thanks to the top-grade spirit root and supreme immortal bone you gave me, I've become this powerful. Ah, Su Qingli let out a shrill cry and spat out a mouthful of blood, glaring at Yi, and as if she wanted to eat him alive. Yian sneered and walked over to step on her back. What? Angry now. Qinglan Immortal Sect always says it's the #1 sect of the human race. But I never expected the sect master to be such a slut and fool. Shut up. Damn it. You vile lust demon. You were the one who deceived me. Going to kill you. Yi, and laughed heartily. Right. That's right. I did deceive you. But do you know why I deceived you? Because you're blind. Because you're stupid. Just as Yi and was about to swing his saber down and sever Su Qingli's head, a flying sword pierced through the void and arrived in an instant. Yian had no choice but to retreat sharply, but the flying sword still pierced his shoulder, splashing blood and staining half his body red. Yian's face twisted in pain. Ah, damn it. One day, he'll slaughter your entire sect. The 3 supreme elders had already arrived together, followed by a dense crowd of sect disciples. Yi and knew the best chance to kill Su Qingli had passed, so he decisively fled, but his wildly arrogant voice still echoed. Su Qingli, you really are ruthless. 100 years as husband and wife, and you personally stripped his spirit root, dug out his immortal bone, and threw him into the 10,000 souls abyss. What kind of #1 sect master are you? You're just a poisonous woman. What #1 sect of the human race. Nothing special. Ha ha! The expressions of the entire sect's disciples turned very ugly. Their whole sect had actually been toyed with by the most despicable lust demon. Some female disciples were so ashamed they couldn't even lift their heads. Su Qingli knew there were already several female disciples involved with Yi and Di, and who knew how many more there were. At this moment, they all wanted to tear Yi into pieces. The oldest supreme elder, Lin Yan, looked at Su Qingli with utter disappointment. Su Qingli, this is the disciple you poured your heart into doting on. You've completely disgraced our sect. I never thought that for the sake of a despicable lust demon, you would personally bury the sect's #1 genius. You are the eternal sinner of Qinglan Immortal Sect. Su Qingli struggled to her feet, her eyes red as blood, and gritted out, "Yes, I am the sect's sinner. But weren't you all wrong too? When I proposed stripping Xiao Chen's spirit root and digging out his immortal bone, didn't you all tacitly agree? Not even when I personally pushed him into the 10,000 souls abyss did I see any of you come out to stop me." Xiao Chen was the sect's #1 genius, famous throughout the continent. Whenever people mentioned Qinglan Immortal Sect, they only knew Xiao Chen's name. Who still remembers the three of you, supreme elders? You've all long wanted Xiao Chen dead. Now that I've played the villain, all of you are standing on the moral high ground to accuse me. I am a sinner. Stupid. I admit it. But aren't all of you also hypocrites? Seeing that Lin Yuan was about to explode, the other two supreme elders quickly held him back. They had no choice but to step in and smooth things over. The reason was simple. Those two supreme elders were members of the SU clan. No matter how ugly things got, the two of them would protect Su Qingli. During the following period, Su Qingli came to the 10,000 souls abyss every day to repent. She recounted, bit by bit, the 100 years she had spent with me. And as she spoke, she couldn't help but cry. When emotionally overwhelmed, she would kneel and kowtow, begging for my forgiveness. Many of the sect disciples thought the sect master had gone mad. A week later, the demon race launched a massive attack. Tens of thousands of demons suddenly appeared inside Qinglan Immortal Sect, catching the sect completely off guard. It turned out Yi had used these past 3 years to secretly set up a hidden teleportation formation inside the sect, bypassing the human frontier defenses entirely. A world-shaking battle erupted. Yi stood at the core of the teleportation formation, laughing madly as tens of thousands of demons poured out along the cracked runes. Qinglan Immortal Sect rushed to defend in haste and suffered heavy casualties. Crying and screaming filled the place, and blood flowed like a river. Demonic flames had already burned through 12 spiritual peaks. Boom! 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 Countless magic treasures and demonic weapons collided, their brilliant radiance surpassing even the sun. Several mountain peaks were cleaved in half. For a time, the earth shook and the mountains trembled. Rubble shot into the sky and dust covered the heavens. Qinglan Immortal Sect lost more than half its people, and the remaining several thousand elites were forced to the back mountain, surrounded by tens of thousands of demons and struggling at death's door. The three supreme elders were badly injured and looked utterly dispirited. Lin Yuan pointed at the blood-spewing Su Qingli and cursed furiously. It's all your fault, you foolish woman. If you hadn't brought the lust demon Yi back, how could our Qinglan Immortal Sect have ended up like this? If you hadn't given the top-grade spirit root and supreme immortal bone to that lust demon, and even used him as a furnace for dual cultivation, how could he have become so powerful? A 1,000-year sect has been destroyed today. Su Qingli, you are the chief culprit, the sinner of the ages. The other two supreme elders could no longer protect Su Qingli. The look in their eyes was full of disappointment. The other disciples were even more desperate, and all hated Su Qingli to the bone. I stood in midair, coldly watching it all. Su Qingli was indeed the chief culprit, but were the rest of them really innocent? I would never forget how they treated me when I lost all my cultivation. They mocked me endlessly and sneered at me. When Yi framed me, they all jumped out to accuse me and wanted nothing more than to slice me into pieces. When I was thrown into the 10,000 souls abyss, they didn't care at all. even clapped for joy. Su Qingli looked crazed. You all push all the blame onto me, but don't you have any fault at all? Think carefully about how you treated Xiao Chen when he became a cripple. If we're going to die, then let's all die together. The expressions of everyone turned ugly, and then a cry of shock rang out from the crowd. Look, it's Senior Brother. Senior Brother isn't dead. Senior Brother was thrown into the 10,000 souls abyss. So how is he still alive? Did his cultivation recover? Senior Brother is here. We're saved. Senior Brother definitely won't abandon us. Everyone stared at me in disbelief. Tears streamed down Su Qingli's face. Xiao Chen. Yes. It really you. I was wrong. Please forgive me. Okay. I was really wrong. I swept my gaze across the whole crowd. Coldly. There was no emotion in my eyes. Only endless coldness and mockery. I had secluded myself in the 10,000 souls abyss for more than 3 months, and supreme forgetfulness had finally reached perfection. I proved the Tao and became an immortal. Yay! And his body covered in demonic patterns also saw me. His eyes full of hatred. Damn it. You actually escaped the 10,000 souls abyss. Xiao Chen, you guarded the human frontier for 3 years and killed countless experts of my demon race. Today, avenge my people. I curled my lips disdainfully. A mere ant, overestimating itself. A violent aura exploded out of Yi An's body. An immense power shook the entire field. He soared into the air. A black saber beam, nearly 10 jang long, tore through the void and hacked down toward me. Wind and thunder raged across the heavens and earth, and demonic clouds blotted out the sky. This strike was domineering beyond compare, turning heaven and earth pale. But to everyone's shock, I simply raised my hand and caught the mighty black demon saber in my grip. Boom! The instant the demon saber touched my hand, it shattered. Terrifying energy waves sent countless people and demons in the area toppling to the ground. How is that possible? Yi An's pupils shrank sharply, but I had already clamped a hand around his throat. A shadow of death instantly spread across his whole body. No, you can't kill me. I was wrong. Senior Brother, please spare my life. I ignored his plea and directly stripped out the spirit root inside his body and dug out the supreme Immortal Bone on him. Then I smashed his dantian with one palm and severed his 5 limbs. Yeah, and let out a shrill scream as blood rained down from him. Everyone was stunned. Yi and was already at the late tribulation realm. Yet, in my Xiao Chen's hands, he had no power to fight back at all. How was that possible? I loosened my hand, and the completely crippled Yi and crashed toward the ground. Boom! The earth cracked. A pit several zhang deep was blasted open, and the whole ground shook. Seeing their leader dead, tens of thousands of demons were filled with terror and fled in all directions. I took out the ancient 10,000 souls banner. The black banner fluttered without wind, and the billions of souls coiled around the pole roared as they surged out, transforming into a dark fog that blotted out the sky and rushed toward the fleeing demons. Those demons were overtaken by the soul fog and instantly turned into clouds of blood mist. Their souls were taken by the ancient 10,000 souls banner, and they let out miserable screams. I stood in the void, my eyes devoid of all emotion, holding the ancient 10,000 souls banner. Billions of soul bodies lingered around me, darkening the sky. At this moment, I looked like an ancient god or demon descending into the world. The several thousand surviving members of Qinglan Immortal Sect looked at me, and terror from the depths of their souls rose within them. The immense pressure forced them to their knees. That crushing force made each and every one of them feel like they were about to explode. The entire sect trembled beneath my feet, regretting everything, crying and begging me for forgiveness. Say, Senior Brother, this has nothing to do with us. It was the sect master who stripped your spirit root, dug out your immortal bone, and threw you into the 10,000 souls abyss. Yeah, Senior Brother, it's all the sect master's fault. She wronged you. Please spare us. Supreme Elder Lin Yuan, angrily shouted, Xiao Chen, you are a sect disciple. Yet, you're forcing us to kneel. This is rebellion and betraying your master and ancestors. Quite a few disciples also cried loudly, Senior, brother, we shouldn't have treated you like that. It was all our fault. Please, forgive us this once. We know we were wrong. Holding the ancient 10,000 souls banner, I laughed loudly. If apologizing actually worked, why would we need the police? No. Why would this immortal need to exist? Die, all of you. No. I roared, and billions of soul bodies poured out in just a short while. All the physical bodies of those former sect members shattered, devoured clean by the soul bodies. Even their souls were forced to become part of the billions of soul bodies. Su Qingli stared blankly at this scene. At this moment, I felt so unfamiliar to her that she was terrified. I walked toward her step by step. She kept backing away, looking at me as if she were looking at a demon from hell, her face full of fear and tears streaming down nonstop. Xiao Chen, I was wrong. I really regret it. I love you. Please, spare me this once. I looked at her coldly. Love me, you say. You love me, yet you betrayed me and got together with a vile lust demon. I condensed my fingers into sword chi, and with one slash cut off her right arm. She hugged her severed right arm and screamed madly, Xiao Chen, I was wrong. Love me, yet you ignored whether I lived or died, stripped my spirit root, and dug out my immortal bone. With another slash, I cut off her left arm. Love me, junior sister was forced to self-detonate, and you believed a lust demon without a second thought and nailed 9 soul-locking nails into my body. With another slash, I severed her right leg at the root. Love me, you personally threw me into the 10,000 souls abyss and wanted me to suffer forever, never to be reincarnated. Xiao Chen, I was wrong. We were husband and wife for 100 years. You can't treat me like this. With another slash, I severed her left leg at the root. Su Qingli, if ye and weren't a lust demon, would you still think you were wrong? My final sword pierced through her dantian, completely turning her into a cripple. Su Qingli no longer screamed. She stared blankly at the sky, her eyes vacant. It seemed she had sunk into thought. She regretted it, but unfortunately, nothing could ever start over. She was ruined. The rest of her life would hold no hope at all. If Yian hadn't been a lust demon, of course, she would not have repented, let alone admitted fault. All of this was only her inner shame at work. At her core, she was an extremely selfish person. I wouldn't kill her. Making her a cripple would hurt far more than death, wouldn't it? I handed the crippled Su Qingli and Yi and over to a group of beggars in the city. I gave those beggars plenty of money and told them to teach these 2 cripples properly how to beg. Let these 2 cripples earn money for them. The beggars were overjoyed and kept kowtowing to thank me. They said I was a great good man. There was no helping it. Who told me I was so merciful? Later, I often went to visit them. Those old beggars complained to me, saying those 2 cripples fought all the time and were not easy to manage at all. No choice, could only beat them every day. I immediately gave them more money. Good beating. Award them for it.